Hello and welcome to Goa Ahead, where we get you the pulse of Goa. And for the last couple of months, the pulse of Goa has been elections. And finally, we are out with the results. BJP getting 20 seats, 3 independents supporting, as well as MGP supporting the BJP to form government. Now, the best thing of this election, I would say, happens to be hopefully, and I use this word very carefully, hopefully we will not see any defections, any horse trading in the couple of years that we have witnessed in the past. Another thing is BJP, while contesting this election, used a very nice catchphrase. It said, "Fatli dha varsa vikasachi, fully path samruddhichi," which says that last 10 years were of development, the next 5 would be of prosperity. Just to understand this prosperity term, and more importantly, the next 5 years which is in store, which will shape up Goa in the next course of time. I have my eminent panel here in studio. I have with me Pramod Acharya, editor at Prudent, and also joining me is Professor Nilesh Borde, Goa Business School faculty. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. And just to start the ball rolling, I would say, if you had to summarize maybe a one-liner to the mandate Goa, the election results that has come up, how would you summarize, Pramod?
I would summarize it as a journey of Dr. Pramod Sawant from selected CM to probably elected CM, rise of AAP, emergence of revolutionary Goans, Congress being put to test again for next 5 years to really prove that whether this is a new Congress or this is the same old wine in just a new bottle. People want to test it. And as far as MGP is concerned, people have told them very clearly, we do not trust your credentials anymore. I think that's the kind of political landscape we are looking at right now. But I believe it's a very intelligent verdict where BJP has been given a mandate but not enough. Congress has been given seats but not enough. AAP and revolutionary Goans have been given vote shares and seat shares, but they have been told to perform in the opposition space so that Goa and Goans can look at them with more seriousness, probably 5 years down the line. And MGP has been told that your association with TMC is not liked by anybody, and even your individual credibility is now completely at stake.
Okay, Professor Borde?
Well, if you want me to sum it up very succinctly, I think this mandate which came on the 10th of March is arrival of new leader, as Pramod talked about, Dr. Pramod Sawant. It's actually a great leadership that Dr. Pramod Sawant showed during this election. So no doubt about it. It's an arrival of new leader. It's arrival of new parties. It's arrival of new hope. It's arrival of new optimism. And I think what is more important is by bringing in parties like RGP and bringing in parties like Aam Aadmi Party in this assembly, the public have told the ruling dispensation, do not take us for granted. We are still giving you 5 more years. If you do not perform, if you do not take care of Goa, then we have options that are rising, which we can always fall back upon.
Okay, Professor, I just want to continue this bottom line is, does issues really hamper people and does it percolate into voting? Because the kind of issues that we have seen, whether it is last 5 years or maybe, very specifically last 2.5 years, if you want to analyze with respect to Dr. Pramod Sawant or the BJP government, has the issues percolated or have people forgotten royally, whether it is maybe the fighting of Tokte or whether it is COVID, whether it is defection or all the other things that Goa has been witnessing to?
Yeah, so I think public have short memory, there is no doubt about it, but that memory remains in subconscious, and that subconscious memory always comes out when the time is ripe and when it's actually important for people to prove their point of view. And I think that's exactly what we saw in this election. Now, if you're looking at whether the issues matter, the issues do matter. I mean, one has to really notice this, that the actual defections that happened during this entire government tenure were about 12 of them. And 9 of them have been shown, back home. The 9 of them have not got re-elected. So people are very open. They are looking around. They keep things in mind. And when the time is right, They really want to make a right choice and a proper decision. And that's exactly what has happened at this point in time.
Okay, Pramod, again, defection is one that, people have showed their outcome in terms of results. But however, with respect to other issues that Goa has seen, where you have taken over, you've seen for the last couple of years that, Goa has witnessed, especially with respect to the BJP government.
I think other issues got sidelined because the biggest question in front of Goan electorate this time was whether we want the kind of political class that we witnessed from 2017 to 2022. It includes the large-scale defections. It includes the kind of politics all of these leaders conducted. And that was the biggest thing. We can take care of our issues. We'll elect a government and we'll deal with the issues later. But do we want this kind of polity? And two factors, I think one that is touched by Nilesh already, that 9 out of 12, the classic defectors lost. One of the 10th one struggled to win the election but somehow managed to. The 11th one managed to win the election because the opponent, the strongest opponent against that candidate was on a Trinamool Congress ticket. Probably only one out of these 12 won comfortably. So I think that says a lot about what people were thinking. Number two, almost 23 new legislators have been sent to the assembly this time. New in the sense, some might be ex-MLAs, but they were thrown out before, where they have been brought in, and there are many new faces, lot of new faces. So more than close to 60% of this assembly is a new assembly. So when we speak about how people have reacted to what happened between 17 to 22, I think this is a very glaring statistic that they more than 50 and close to 60% of the legislators are new. They have just refused the old lot. Probably local satraps like Montserrat and Ranes have managed to retain their seats and they have managed to win them. However, at a general scale, at a large scale, people have voted for change. Now, that change might not be a regime change. The change might not be a political party change. But the point that I was making all along during last 6 months, that people are looking at the change in political class and not necessarily a change in regime or a political party. And when you look at this data and when you look at the statistics, 23 out of 40 being the new legislators who are not a part of the last assembly, I think says a lot about replacement of that political class or a large chunk of that political class rather than a change which is limited to maybe a regime or a political party.
Bro, there's this interesting thing that you have said. You wanted a change, but is it the change in the party and the leadership or change in the faces that were part of the assembly one? And also the rise, as you have said, he has arrived. That is Dr. Pramod Sawant, because it was a big gamble for the BJP, but the way we have think, there was a grudge against BJP across Goa, but then, the voters have voted BJP in a very simple majority. And how do you see this particular aspect that there is a change and this change is with respect to maybe a person or a face or a party?
Certainly there was anti-incumbency. 10 years into power, there was huge anti-incumbency. Even now, if you see around 66 to 67% people have not voted for BJP. So that's a large chunk. What Dr. Pramod Sawant have been successful in doing is retaining the BJP's vote share. At the same time, the split in the opposition space has worked to the advantage of the BJP. Secondly, you have to give him credit because 20, I believe, is a mandate.
Yes.
There might be a split, there might be some votes here and there, some seats here and there. But 20 is kind of a decisive mandate, which also we have been speaking a lot before this election, that at the fag end of the campaigning, the electorate will get consolidated. Now, where they get consolidated needs to be seen. Now, it is very clear that they have gone with a tried and tested alternative. Probably because even in the last month of the election, Congress's candidates were getting defected. Forget about the MLAs were getting defected, the candidates were getting defected. So it was very difficult for a large chunk of Goan population to trust the Congress overnight. That just because your candidates have gone, your existing leaders have gone, you have given tickets to new faces. And now you are claiming that you are the new Congress. This is a revamped, renewed Congress. But it was difficult for a general person to just trust that Congress overnight. So what the people have done, in my limited understanding, I would say, is they have given Congress good amount of seats. Congress, when they went into this election, was 1 MLA. From 1, they have gone to 11, 12. 12 along with Goa Forward. So they have been given good amount of seats to compared to what they had, but people are not ready to trust them fully. It's just the halfway mark that the Congress has, the halfway mark of the trust, if not the halfway mark of the majority. And that halfway mark, people have said you have another halfway to go. Perform in the next 5 years, show us, prove to us that you can perform as an effective opposition. Otherwise, we have already created options like Aam Aadmi Party and Revolutionary Goans. We have sent their representatives to the assembly. We have options to fall back upon if Congress goes back into the same phase that we witnessed during last 5 years.
Professor, I remember.
If I may just come in. It is like what Pramod was saying. If I have got to just summarize, it is antitrust overweight anti-incumbency.
Okay.
That's a very, very nice way to put it.
I remember, Professor, you made a statement with respect to Sarkar Tumcha Dari, where just the heat was on during the election time. It was just start of the campaign. You said that this was imported model of another party and been trying to being implemented. How do you see the statement made by you 3 months back and the government or the present situation?
Yeah. So I am not a politician who would probably make political statements. So I was more of a data person.
Yeah.
And so I only spoke data, and the data, thankfully, like politicians, does not change. So I continue to maintain that. So there is no change in that. So the logic is very simple. I mean, if someone asks me what it is and what is it that the opposition parties probably need to do, or what is it that the government needs to do, is that government should see to it that the politicians become completely dispensable with respect to any governance issue, which simply means that no citizen should be wanting to meet a MLA in order to get his legal work done. So it's like, I want a Ladli Lakshmi scheme. Why do I need a MLA to take care of it? If my documents are in place, everything is in place, I should not need anyone. So the governance needs to be tightened, it needs to be improved, and that's how it is. And Sarkar Tumcha Dari, the whole concept of Sarkar Tumcha Dari probably was a very beautiful, I mean, that's a very great political step that Dr. Pramod Sawant took as a leader, because he practically reached out to every single constituency under the aegis of Sarkar Tumcha Dari, brought the public back into one place and promoted himself. So which is something that established him as pan Goa leader. Right from Konkani to Pedne.
Very true.
So it's an astuteness that of Dr. Pramod Sawant that was seen.
Okay, now we'll come to the very important point is with so many parties, we feared that there would be split of vote. Now, obviously that happened. Now, whom did it damage is a big question. Pramod, if you can start with you, is with so many parties, how do you see the split of votes?
See, this is a very interesting thing. When I said there was a consolidation towards one alternative, eventually it kind of happened towards BJP. But when we talk about the split, I believe the split damaged both. If you go into pure statistics, you can see that at least on 3 to 4 seats, the BJP got damaged because of split. On around 6 to 7 seats, Congress got damaged because of split. So, when we talk about this factor of split, although the opposition space was overcrowded and fractured, it necessarily did not only damage the opposition space. Some elements, or an element like Revolutionary Goans, an element like probably Aam Aadmi Party, which not necessarily took a anti-BJP vote, it even took a pro-BJP vote, which was kind of disillusioned with the BJP. So it damaged, it cut both ways. So the Congress also lost seats because of split, as well as BJP lost split because of seats. Their own leaders rebelled. Michael Lobo rebelled. In Bardes, they got 4 seats because of that. Lakshmikant Parsekar rebelled. They lost a Manare seat because of that. There are, for example, a Shivoli seat, BJP probably lost because of Revolutionary Goans. So if you look at the data, then the split has cut both ways. So it has probably damaged Congress and its allies more but it has also damaged BJP. So for me, the factor of split, we cannot necessarily say that Congress came down to 11 seats or 12 seats along with their allies merely because of split.
Professor, do you concur with the statement made by Pramod?
Yeah, so if you look at it from a supply side, I mean, I can get back into academics. If you look at it from supply side, which is what, when you look at it from a political party point of view, yes, it damaged. But if you ask me frankly, as a voter, as a citizen, as a teacher, I think what happened in Goan politics was amazing. Because the more number of players you have in a market, the consumer tends to become a king, because then you are trying to say that the consumer is a king, which means the voter is a king. And we have seen this. So in a place like Santandre, you have got a very young, youthful RGP young lad who goes on to win. You have got an extremely good face in place like Aldona, for example, who got elected. You've got some extremely good people getting elected under Aam Aadmi Party banner. So the point we are trying to simply make here is that when you give choice to consumer, it is a choice that the consumer makes. That simply means that the voter becomes a king.
Okay.
They get more options. If you don't give them options, then it is a choice between an evil and a lesser evil.
It is also, if I may add, the BJP part into it. BJP replaced many of these defectors and gave tickets to their own leaders.
Correct.
Probably in Savarde they did that, in Kankon they did that, in Pedne they did that. And they won all those seats. So BJP realized that there is a strong anti-incumbency and resentment against these defectors. So although they engineered defections 2-3 years back, by the end of the tenure, they realized that these guys are not going to give them seats. So they replaced them and they won those seats. So it's not only that. So all these corrective steps, even listening to the ground, listening to the pulse of the people, which BJP did very effectively during those last 2-3 months of the election. I think that has worked for them. So as Nilesh rightly said, the option that you did not want was replaced by BJP.
Okay.
The voter became the king and gave you those votes.
Okay. Now let us see the presence of these political parties across talukas now. If I can have the slide on the screen. Now this is how it looks when it comes to talukas and the political party presence. Now, if we see that BJP obviously has a presence across now, followed by Indian National Congress. The MGP has gone, last time they had 3, now they have 2 seats. Goa forward from 3 to again back to 1. Independents have the presence at 3. RG has made an entry into the assembly, and also the Aam Aadmi Party with 2 seats. Looking at this chart, I'll start with Professor. How do you see the picture of Goa with respect to political parties and the future?
Yeah, so one of the best things that probably BJP can take away from this is that BJP has suddenly become a pan-Goa party with presence in every taluka. Another thing that probably somebody like Congress should look at is that their dissemination from North Goa. If you minus the Michael Lobo factor, if you minus the Michael Lobo factor, if you notice their entire this, more importantly, what is worse to look at is the Sangay, Kankon and Dharbandora area. So I think Congress is kind of getting pushed into oblivion for some reason, and so that's a takeaway probably for Congress. A great story for someone like Revolutionary Goans Party, because they make a mark, and they make a mark in a constituency that probably on paper theoretical assimilation did not look to be a very stronghold for a person like RGP. Yeah. In spite of that, I think they being able to pull people along was an amazing thing to look at, and same is the case with the Aam Aadmi Party. So I think that's the most important takeaway.
So, Aam Aadmi Party with respect to Benoli and Veli, and RG with Santandre. Pramod?
Absolutely.
So, if you look at that chart, you can conclusively today say that BJP absolutely is a pan-Goa party in terms of seat share. Now, if you look at the next column of the Congress column, I think that's where the problem is. Although you see the highest number of seats coming from Bardes, they are not necessarily Congress seats. They are Michael Lobo seats. So the problem is, you have 2 seats in Tiswadi, probably 3 in Salsette. Your one seat in Mormugao is something that is, you cannot take it for granted. Same with Cape. You cannot take it for granted.
Correct.
So effectively that reduces Indian National Congress to 2 talukas. And I think that is the biggest problem. Now if you see the corresponding data, wherever the Salset, there is a AAP. You see the last column, 2 seats of AAP. So Salset is considered as the bastion of Congress party, and there are already 2 seats of AAP there. There is 1 independent there. And there is 1 Goa Forward, which also Congress cannot take for granted. Now in Tiswadi, there is a RG. You can see 1 seat of RG in Tiswadi. Now the problem is, your basic bastions have been breached. There is a AAP there. There is in Bardej, it is basically Michael Lobo, and in Tiswadi also there is RG, and even in Salset there is RG. That is making very strong headways. So the problem for the Congress, and if you see those talukas, they are basically the old conquest talukas where there is a huge minority population, where Congress is showing some presence at this point of time. But the division in the seats there clearly tells you that the Congress's core voter base is not trusting Congress anymore. Is not ready to pose their faith in the Congress anymore, and that is the reason. Even in these old conquest talukas where the minority population is substantially high, it is the RG and it is the Aam Aadmi Party which is making clear headways as a replacement to the Congress. So 2 points. Number 1, Congress is in terms of seat share practically non-existent in almost 7 talukas out of 12. And they're practically non-existent. There is not even 1 seat. And in the rest of the talukas, there is RG and there is AAP. Making very, very strong headways. And these are the only talukas which are traditionally considered as bastions of Congress. I think there's a deep trouble for Congress and a very, very strong reason for concern.
So whatever Pramod just said is perfect, but I'm just going to draw a very small, crude analogy and parallel in order for people and viewers to understand it better. What we are talking about is, if you consider each taluka to be a market, then Congress is like a Nokia which probably has competition and is getting into oblivion from every single market. Whereas if you look at somebody like BJP is more like an Apple where it still has monopoly in a lot of markets, where it does not really look at opposition. I mean, you don't have a strong opposition there if they continue to manage their people the way they are doing at the moment. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's
Thank
that's
God
very
you did not call them BlackBerry. You remained at Nokia.
Okay, I'll shift to the second slide, which is of the deposit lost. Now, we'll have that slide. Yeah. If you can see, BJP has contested 40 seats where they've lost at 4 the deposits. 37 where Congress fielded their candidate. 10 have been falling short. Goa Forward out of 3 1. MGP out of 13 7. Aam Aadmi Party 39, out of which most have lost, that is 35. RG 38, 31 have lost. TMC 26, 21 have lost. NCP 13, 12 have lost. And Shiv Sena, 11 candidates, 9 have lost their deposit. How do you look at this particular aspect of the chart, Professor?
Yeah, so again, I think considering the sheer size and the numbers that basically contested election, I thought this was bound to happen. And in every constituency, if you ask me very frankly, this is something that would project one-on-one kind of a fight, the remaining kind of becoming irrelevant. So, except a few constituencies that you look at where the fight has been very tight, like for example Sant Andre as an instance, you will not find in many places that such a thing has happened. So you would have a very strong contender 1 and contender 2, and the others becoming irrelevant. Right? Very few constituency where everybody has kind of shown some sort of relevance for the voters.
Okay,
Probably that's one reason why.
Pramod?
No, in terms of deposit law, I think what it tells you is that, again, the same chart. I want to correlate this chart with the previous chart. That the presence of BJP across Goa is quite evident because only 4 of their candidates lost the deposit, which effectively tells us the kind of influence they have on practically every seat now.
Correct. True.
In terms of Congress, it's the same problem again. Although Congress remains the challenger, on paper, the number of people who lost, almost 25%, more than 25% candidates of Congress lost their deposit, which definitely creates a huge problem for the Congress. Because if you are a real challenger to the BJP on ground, then more than 25% candidates of yours cannot and should not lose the deposit. I think that's the major concern. As far as the rest of the parties are concerned, I think they are more or less in the same zone as Nilesh described. That on most seats, the contest has been between number 1 and number 2.
Okay.
Only thing is, the number 1 consistently has been BJP. People, because they had multiple options, have decided who the number 2 is. That is why the number is considerably high as far as the other political parties are concerned.
So again, a one-line summary is Congress is fast getting irrelevant.
Okay, let me go to the next slide, which will see the strike rate of vis-a-vis 2017 election and 2022. We have this chart now where we see BJP in 2017 contested 36 seats, have won 13. On the other side, this time they contested 40, have won 20. Congress happens to be in 2017 at 45%. Congress now is at 29%. Again followed by MGP, which has 15% vis-a-vis 12% in the 2017 election, followed by AAP, TMC, NCP, RGP, Goa Forward, Shiv Sena. These are the parties which contested the elections both in 2017 and 2022. Now, looking at this chart, gentlemen, how do you see, Goa happens to be, I always say this, Goa happens to be a prototype for all the political parties to experiment. We've seen it in past. When you see this many parties contesting and this is the strike rate, what is the kind of impact or what is the kind of difference that you're trying to make here in the state of Goa? Professor?
Well, again, it's basically trying to look at from the point of view that a major party like Bharatiya Janata Party is basically trying to make its presence felt across Goa. You not only are making your presence felt across Goa, what you are trying to also do is that you're trying to say, whatever I'm trying to bet on, I'm trying to win most of it. Right? So 50% strike rate, I think is an amazing thing considering the kind of situation that BJP basically was working upon. So that's an amazing thing. So, whereas when you look at someone like Aam Aadmi Party and Revolutionary Goan Party, yes, they are basically entering the market newly. So obviously, the failure rate is going to be quite high. But nonetheless, even a single point success rate. So to me, if I've got to draw a parallel again, these are more like venture capitalists. So Aam Aadmi Party and RGP, they might probably bet on a lot of projects, will lose on most of them, but the one on which they will win, they then have the capacity to make an impact which is completely unfathomable.
Correct.
And that is exactly, so again, it's a history repeats itself. True. So we are looking at a political life cycle, like how you have a business life cycle, you've got a political life cycle. BJP went through this state in the past. And they are now reached a particular level. So unless they sustain their top position and pan-Goa position and relevance in the market of politics, you are sure that there are parties like RGP and AAP which are fast making roadways. And they in this election have got that project which they have betted upon, which can give them results like nobody could have even thought of before. And that's what BJP needs to be very careful about.
Pramod?
I can link this graph of yours with the graphics of the previous graphics of deposit loss. Now, if you look at the numbers, which is very interesting, BJP's strike rate has gone from 36% to 50%, whether Congress's strike rate has come down from around 46% to almost 30%, a loss of 16% strike rate. And who has gained? If you see there, it is AAP that has gained. It is Revolutionary Goans that has gained. Very, very interesting is who has lost the vote share. The NCP has lost the vote share. Others have lost the vote share, which tells us that NCP's vote share predominantly was individual centric, like a Churchill Alema winning last time. It was his vote share and not the party vote share. And others was again very, very individualistic vote share. But what is most striking about BJP's vote share is getting to that 50. BJP has not only won seats, they have not only had a better strike rate, but the most important thing is the way they ran this election. The micromanagement that is done by BJP, seat by seat arithmetic and leader by leader chemistry in each seat. A seat by seat arithmetic in terms of votes and a leader by leader arithmetic or chemistry that they pushed into each constituency. The classic case being the Porvorim. Rohan Khaunte, who is staunch anti-BJP, was taken in the party at the last moment only because he was one guy who could win that seat on any ticket. And he won that seat with a very, very huge margin on a BJP ticket. So this combination of arithmetic as well as chemistry has worked tremendously for BJP in spite of the anti-incumbency, and their strike rate has improved to 50%. As far as Congress is concerned, Congress lost its leaders. Congress tried to give new leaders, but those new leaders had no time to build chemistry with the voters. So in terms of arithmetic, probably because Congress is an old player, they got sizable strike rate, but the additional chemistry that is required to push them over the finish line was absent, as many of these new candidates did not get time to establish any chemistry with the voter.
Congress only?
Yeah, Congress.
Irrelevant.
Okay. The next one happens to be Aam Aadmi Party, Pramod.
I think the rise of AAP.
Okay. Professor?
Sunrise.
Okay. The TMC.
TMC, I'll go with Nilesh's word, irrelevant.
Okay. Professor?
Joker.
Goa Forward.
Goa Forward, I think struggling to survive.
Professor?
Gasping for breath.
Okay. And the BJP?
I think BJP is the classic election machinery.
Professor?
Astute.
Okay. And the headline maker, RGP.
Revolutionary Goans, I think RGP has got 10% vote share in this election. It is the third highest vote share after BJP and Congress. So I don't really consider them as splitters or anything. They have their own vote share now because they are almost into double digits. And if you see the statistics, then there are 17 seats out of 40 where they have got votes between 2,000 to 4,000. And there are 4 seats where they have got votes more than 5,000. So certainly this is emergence of RG.
Okay. Professor?
Absolutely. I think RGP is a party that's emerging and is creating a revolution. There is no doubt about that.
Okay. And finally, MGP?
MGP, I think the lion has been tamed.
Professor?
Directionless missile.
Okay. Well, that's all from our side. Thank you very much. As we started, the next 5 years, we got to see how Goa gets shaped up with the same party who has ruled for the last 10 years and have got a chance of 5 years. But the change happens to be the decisive mandate for Dr. Pramod Sawant, who heads the party now for the next 5 years. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining and sharing your valuable thoughts. It was a pleasure to have you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You guys keep watching Goa Ahead.